Good Sunday afternoon or evening, I should say. Guess what time it is? It is time to talk sports. I am Kendrick, the sports guy with TFG Sports Media, and Kendrick Sports Hustle. That's SPORTZHUSTLE. Hope everyone is having a great Sunday. I know it's about that time, Monday. We got to get back to going to work. But we're going to give you about 30 minutes of some sports talk. And guess what? This is a special show. It's a college football preview show, and I got a special guest. But before we get to that, you know my Club Kendrick rules. It ain't Club Shay, but it's Club Kendrick. You got to come in. Make sure you comment. Let me know where you're watching from. Make sure you talk to us. Don't be in the bushes. Don't be hiding. Give us a comment. Talk to us. Do us some a favor doing that. Make sure if you haven't already, like and subscribe to the channel on YouTube. That is TFG Sports Media, as well as Kendrick Sports Hustle. Make sure you like and follow them both. On Facebook, you can follow me as well on Instagram at Kendrick1969 and on TikTok at Kendrick Henderson51, which I am live on TikTok as we speak. And we got some people over in the house on TikTok. Razor Blade, Guitar Glenn. I want to thank everybody for popping in on TikTok. Make sure you tap the screen, share the live. So again, my special guest today is going to be none other than my good brother, but he's also my cousin from the Vernon Speaks Sports-Auburn podcast. He knows all things SEC, especially Auburn, and we're going to be talking about college football today, more specifically the SEC. My good brother, my cousin, Kennard Stewart is in the house. What's good, Kennard? How you doing, brother?
What's going on, man? I'm definitely glad to be on the show tonight, especially to talk about college football, because there have been so many changes within the college football stratosphere, and definitely look forward to digging into that with you.
Yeah, I know. You my guy, so go ahead.
Yeah, my YouTube channel is Vernon Speaks Sports-Auburn. Down in Deep South, college football is king, and on the plains of Auburn, the battle cry is War Damn Eagle.
See, TikTok, I messed it up. I knew it was some WDE War Damn Eagle, but Kennard says it a whole lot smoother than I do. But anyway, we got the candy shop. And by the way, the candy shop is my fam too. She says, "Hey, Kenny and Kennard." And you know what? I just thought about it, fam. We the double K's today. You're getting a double K edition today of Kendrick and Kennard. So yeah, y'all chalk that up. Y'all write that down. So let's jump into this thing right now, Kennard. First of all, you the SEC guy. You went to Auburn. You know all things SEC. Let's start off with the big news that was. Everybody's been anticipating. Texas and Oklahoma coming into the SEC. What's your thoughts on both these teams coming in, and what should they expect?
Well, one of the things is the fact that the SEC coming into this particular football season, they don't necessarily dominate the top 25, but they have 9 teams, just as the Pac-12 does have 9 teams in the top 25. And I think that's pretty significant, and a lot of that is largely due to the realignment of the conferences. You got USC going to the Big 12. You have Oklahoma and Texas on board in the SEC. And I think that's going to be a huge thing when you start to get into the meat of the college football season. Now, as you talked about, the big story of college football, no matter you got Coach Prime, you have you got UCF joining the Big 12. You have SMU, Stanford, and California joining the Big 12. But the biggest story is Oklahoma and Texas joining the SEC. Now, the reason why this is big is because you're not just joining, you're not just onboarding some homecoming teams. These are blue bloods and college royalty of college football. You look at Texas. Texas has a whopping 255 wins, 145 losses, and 17 ties against current SEC teams. Now, for both Texas and Oklahoma, that's going to be inflated, because what a lot of folks don't know, and as to why this move made a lot of sense, it makes geographical sense. And it also makes sense to the fact that Texas and Oklahoma will be joining 3 of their SEC rivals in Texas A&M, Missouri,
right,
and what's the Arkansas?
And Arkansas, right?
They were all rivals in the Big 12. So
And the Southwest Conference,
it's an easy transition.
way back. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep. And also, I think Oklahoma, a lot of people, Oklahoma has had a mainstay in the college football playoff arena. They've been 0-3 against SEC teams in the college football playoff arena, but they still pose a big threat because now they have that SEC brand to where they can start to recruit a little bit more heavily. I think they need to do a little bit more along the offensive defensive line.
Yeah.
To make themselves a little bit more physical in this conference.
Let me ask you this, Kennard. This year there will be no divisions, what I was reading. So that's going to kind of change how these teams compete because there's only going to be 8 conference games, what I have read. So now that there's no divisions this year, how will you think that'll kind of the makeup and the look as far as the competition in the SEC this upcoming season?
Well, there have been some teams that have kind of gotten the high end of the stick, and there's been some teams that have gotten kind of the low end of the stick. And I think if you look at a team like Auburn, for example, they have 5 straight home games that includes Oklahoma that could help them catapult into a good start. But you also have teams like Alabama. Well, no. You have Georgia, who actually have to travel to Texas and have to travel to Tuscaloosa, so that could change their trajectory, and it also disrupts the rivalry concept in SEC because there's some teams that are not going to be playing each other anymore. Kind of like, you look at, say, Auburn won't be playing LSU this year.
Oh wow, they won't. Oh wow,
they won't be playing LSU this year.
Okay.
They won't be playing Ole Miss this year, and then you have some teams like South Carolina. If you look at their schedule, it's absolutely brutal to where it's a wonder that they will even have a winning season this year. So that 2 teams that have come into the conference that have changed the alignment concept has not only changed the rivalry trajectory, but also changed the strength of schedule trajectory for the SEC conference. So it's going to be real tough for some team. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna make a bold statement. I don't think any team gets out of the SEC, whether they are the top or whether they're the bottom. Whoever represents it, well, it's going to be a couple of teams that are going to represent the SEC in the college football playoffs.
Right.
But every team in the SEC, in my opinion, loses at least one. No way possible. There's no way possible.
Okay, and I see where you're going with that, and I think you're right on that. So you kind of touched on the college football playoff. We know that it's not going to be 12 playoff teams. And the SEC has kind of been the top dog. Up until last year, they had won the 4 last national championships that came out of the SEC. How many teams, in your opinion, you think is good outside of the champion? How many more teams out of the SEC you think will probably sneak in this college football playoff?
Well, I think Georgia is obviously the projected team to win the SEC championship. I think they have the best roster. They've recruited well over the last 4 years. They have overlapping talent, and they do pretty well in the transfer portal. You also have a situation with Alabama that a lot of folks are not. Well, they're talking about it because, for one, you have Kalen DeBoer, who was the former coach for Washington, led them to a national championship game berth, actually losing to Michigan 34-13. And I have my opinions of that game. I thought Washington played a good game, had some chances down the stretch, a couple of key mistakes, turnovers, and all that kind of stuff kind of got them into the 34-13 realm. But if you're looking at the SEC, some of the top teams I'm looking at is Alabama, Georgia. I'm still a little iffy on Missouri. I know they're riding high after the win over Ohio State, but you got to look at the fact that Ohio State had a lot of guys that opted out of that particular game. But still, a win over Ohio State does a lot of things to you mentally that makes you feel good about your program. I also have some sleeper teams that we may talk about. I don't want to be a homer right now, but if you ask me the question, I will tell you. But I think with all that Auburn not all that the SEC has to offer, you talk about 9 teams in the top 25. You have 4 teams in the top 10. You have overlapping recruiting on all sides. I love the fact that at Ole Miss, Lane Kiffin has dominated the transfer portal spectrum of this thing to where he's going to be a lot better on defense. And here's a game that I want you to watch. I think the Ole Miss and Georgia game in Oxford is going to be a big one. I also think that Georgia against Auburn in Athens is going to be a big one. And I really think the SEC is going to have a lot of say in how this college football playoff thing goes.
Yeah, and I know you said you don't want to be a homer, but I got to get your take, because again, Vernon Speaks Sports-Auburn. If y'all don't know, make sure y'all go subscribe to his podcast, his YouTube channel. He does all Auburn sports, SEC, but definitely Auburn. I got to get your take on Auburn and Hugh Freeze. What is your thoughts on this upcoming season for them, and as far as recruiting? What do you think your Tigers looking like?
Well, I think the biggest story for Auburn is, if this is a word, is comfortability. Mm-hmm. I think Hugh Freeze has added some pieces to his staff to where he's a little bit more comfortable with how he coaches this year. He believes in his quarterback, Peyton Thorne, and for good reason. He's pieced some good players around him. He's got five of the top wide receivers in the country that will be on his side. He also has done some good things in the transfer portal with veteran receivers, including Keandre Lambert-Smith from Penn State, who I think will be that's a name you want to think about, because he's going to help Auburn a lot in the intermediate passing game, getting those first downs, getting that separation, and also giving some of those young guys some leeway to air the ball out downfield. Also, they've done a good deal in getting some depth at the defensive line and the offensive line. So that's why I think, Auburn, I'm not saying that Auburn will be, a SEC champion or college football playoff, because right now, if you are a betting man, you will have Auburn at 7.5 wins and you take the over and under. Now, because of my knowledge of football, I'm taking the over. I got Auburn with 8 wins, and I also have them. The reason why I have them stuck at 8 wins, because Auburn has a knack of winning certain games they shouldn't, and winning certain games they shouldn't, and losing a certain game that they shouldn't. And one of those games, I think, to be honest, and I'm gonna put it on out there, I think Auburn beats Georgia this year.
Oh, well, you putting that out there, okay?
Yeah, put it out there, and I, like I said, the reason why I say is because I think Auburn has a lot more weapons on offense, and Georgia they've lost Brock Bauer, who was their make or break guy. And I think Georgia has some guys that I think, even though they're talented, but because of what Auburn has added in the offseason, I think Auburn can match up as long as they can keep the injuries at bay, in my opinion.
Right. And Georgia need to keep their players from getting arrested for speed. And I don't know what's going on down there in Athens, but for some reason they can't keep their players out of trouble. Yeah.
Ironically, whether you care to believe it or not, I actually work in Athens.
Georgia. Oh, do you? Okay.
Yes, a lot of these stories I hear before they even come out.
Oh, wow.
And the one where the defensive lineman was in a speed race and it cost a couple people alive. Heard about that. Yeah. I think there is a disciplinary issue. I'm not sure why they feel like in a city like Athens that the traffic is so terrible, why you think racing or speeding in that city makes sense. And I'm going to tell you, the Oconee County the Sheriff Department is no stranger to arresting you. I don't know if you remember back it was probably, I'd say about 8 or 9 years ago, there was a guy, I can't think of his name. I wish I would have took notes on this. He was the athletic director for Georgia for a very short period of time. Mm-hmm. But he wound up getting fired because he was found with a woman in his car, and her undergarments were in the passenger. It was all kind of crazy stuff. Right. I'm telling you that you can't really do. I'm not understanding how there wasn't a tutorial for these guys at Georgia to say that the Oconee County Police Department / Athens Clark is like 2 different little agencies. Right. And the state troopers are really prevalent in that little radius of Georgia and University of Georgia and Athens. I don't see how the coaches have not warned them or how this keeps happening.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those things. You and I know a lot of times these athletes, especially your star athlete, you the big dog, Georgia's, national championships, they feel like they're invincible, so that they can kind of get away with what they want to get away. But I just think that eventually that's going to catch up with your program, and I think Kirby Smart, I think he needs to, like you say, he needs to give them a little bit more discipline. And speaking of coaches, I want to get your thoughts, your take on the 3 new head coaches that's coming in to the league. That is Texas head coach Steve Sarkisian, who he's familiar with the SEC. He was at Alabama as an OC. And you got Brent Venables from Oklahoma and the new head coach at A&M, Mike Elko. What are your thoughts on all 3 of those coaches, and what should they expect in the SEC?
Well, one thing about it is Sarkisian is not necessarily new. He's new to the conference at this point, but he's not new to the culture of the conference. He understands the recruiting. He worked under Nick Saban, which I think will bode well for him in recruiting tactics and building those relationships to have those pipelines of kids to where you can go to feed your program. And Texas is a name, and now that Texas is in the SEC, that makes them an even bigger name. And I think the one that's going to get hit the hardest, who's probably going to struggle the most, is coach at Texas A&M. He has a lot of resources. Jimbo Fisher kind of put a bitter taste in the mouths maybe of recruits and the outcome. So I think that's going to be a challenge for him. But overall, I think this is going to be a very competitive recruiting process for all coaches in the SEC.
And I didn't mean to leave him out, but let's talk about Alabama. This is post Nick Saban and Kalen DeBoer. He got some big shoes to fill. What kind of pressure is he going to be under at Alabama?
Well, I think he's going to be under unfair pressure because Nick Saban came along at a time where you could kind of, and this is no disrespect for Nick Saban. I think he's one of the greatest coaches of all time. I actually listened to a lot of his mentorship talks online, and I think he's a great mentor. I think he's a great leader. I think he came along during a time where you could pretty much, especially if you had the money and you could hide it, you could recruit some of the best players in the country and hoard them, so to speak. But if you notice, when things started to become a little bit more equal, and when there was a little bit more parity in college football, especially via the transfer portal, Alabama still were successful, but they didn't have that same level of dominance that Nick Saban had during his tenure. Because during Nick Saban's prime, you got a number 1 Alabama taking on a number 3 USC, and you beat them 58-3. I don't think that happens now with the transfer portal and with the parity of college football. So absolutely, Kalen DeBoer has shoes to fill that I don't think he can. I don't think anyone can, because the landscape of college football has changed so drastically that anyone that is asking him to do what Nick Saban did during the time of Nick Saban's dominance, nobody's going to be able to do that. But he will be successful. But he ain't going to be no 13-0 successful. Georgia 61-10 successful.
Yeah, but he will be successful. Let me ask you. Let me ask you this, Kennard. I was scouring the internet, and Will Backus of CBS Sports, he has the SEC ranked as the top Power 5 football conference in the land, number 1, and he had, I believe, the Big Ten number 2. What's your thoughts? Who are the top? Is the SEC still the top football conference in your opinion? And where do you rank the others outside of, under the SEC?
I think at a certain point, when you look at the transfer portal and its impact and how, other teams have been able to emerge. I mentioned early in this video that the Big 12 and the SEC are neck and neck in top 25 teams in the top 25. Also, you look at the fact that even in the top 10, the Big 12 has 4 teams. The SEC has 4 teams. You know what I'm saying? So I think right now, to say that one conference dominates the other is probably a little irresponsible, because you look at I'm looking at your outline here. You got Georgia number 1, which I think
Right.
you know I think is okay.
So you don't agree. You don't think Georgia
I
number
don't
one.
totally agree
Okay.
because we have so
Now
many
didn't
holes. They've lost a
right.
lot of folks there.
They
Ohio
did.
State, I think, can be
Yeah.
a solid number 2.
Mm.
Oregon, I think, what I'm saying. Like, they've lost it.
Yeah.
I don't know what they got coming back at quarterback. Texas, I'm really big on at number 4.
Okay.
Alabama, I'm okay with at number 5.
Mm-hmm.
I'm okay with Ole Miss at being number 6. I actually would put if it were me, and if I had the pull to do this, I switch Texas and Ole Miss. To be honest with you,
Oh, okay.
I think they have.
You would put Ole Miss ahead of Texas.
I would
Gotcha.
put Ole Miss at number 4 because I think
Okay.
Lane Kiffin has done a good job of maintaining offensive production, and also I think he's recruited better on defense, which will help him down the stretch. And Alabama, I gotta keep them between 3 and 5 because of what they have so much talent, and I think Kalen DeBoer is a really good coach that can help maintain that. And then when I start to look down the stretch, I look at Notre Dame, independent. They're all but an ACC or maybe a Big 12 conference team. They play a lot of those guys there. Penn State, I don't know if I want them in my top 10. Michigan,
I got you. Yeah. I don't think they should be there either, but that's my opinion. And this is the AP poll, by the way. Those that's watching, this is the AP preseason poll. So again, go ahead.
I like Florida State either with like a couple of points within the top 10 or where they at in the top 10. I would definitely switch LSU with Missouri. I think LSU should be at number 11.
Okay.
I think Missouri should be a solid number 12 or 13 unless they show us something otherwise. Missouri has what a lot of people don't know. They have a lot of good defensive players coming back, but they did show some holes in the running game where they were a little bit vulnerable against LSU last year. But they do have, I think, one of the better, or at least 3 really good receivers in Theo Weiss, who out of Denton, Texas, who was at Oklahoma. He's a 5-star recruit out of high school. He's actually doing some good things. He could have a breakout season there, so you could watch out for him. But I still think this whole concept of SEC dominance is BS, to be honest with you, because with the SEC you have top feeders, you got somewhat of the middle tier, and you have the bottom feeders. And I think what a lot of people in the South are thinking, well, we've won these national championships, but the same teams are winning them.
Right.
Georgia's winning them. Alabama's winning. But what are the other teams doing?
Right.
So this SEC dominance concept is all propaganda, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, and I get what you're saying. Again, that's a preseason poll, and then I definitely agree with a lot with what you said about certain teams should be flip-flop. But again, this is the preseason. Everybody, we don't know until these teams get between those white lines and get it done. So we're gonna see. Now, right. So let's get to our last segment, Kennard. Players to watch. Let's with you focusing on the SEC. What are the name of some players that people should be watching this upcoming season?
I think you have to absolutely watch Carson Beck at Georgia. I think he has the physical build. I think he has the mental capacity to play the football game. He's the quarterback there. He's probably listed on most people's short list as a Heisman candidate. I think he's probably one of the more versatilely athletic quarterbacks. He has a strong arm. He can make any throw on the football field. I also think you have to look at Jalen Milroe at Alabama. If he can figure out a way to get his game to where he can convert his passing ability as well as his absolutely phenomenal run ability, I think he can do very well. I think those are the 2 players in the SEC that will probably get the most publicity as far as their dominance in the college football game. There are a lot of others that unfortunately I just didn't do the research to really
all good.
Really look at because there are plenty of others, because I'm pretty sure You got some great guys on the defensive side at Alabama who
Right.
they've done a great deal of recruiting there. But Jalen Milroe and Carson Beck out of the SEC quarterback wise, that's my lazy pick as to who should be the guys to watch.
Now, I did do a little bit of homework for us, Kay, and I one of the players you mentioned, Carson Beck, he was on the list for his quarterbacks. The quarterback Dylan Gabriel from Oregon was on the list as players to watch. Quarterback Shedeur Sanders from Colorado, player to watch.
I forgot about Shedeur Sanders. He's
Quarterback Quinn Ewers from Texas was on this list. Running back Ali Gordon II from Oklahoma State. Running back Jaquez Hunter, your guy from Auburn, he was on this list. Running back Travion Henderson from Ohio State. Wide receiver Luther Burden III.
I really like, not to cut you off, but I really like Luther from
Missouri.
From Missouri. That's the guy that I'm afraid of in that game when we play him, because he's really good.
He was on the list, but they had one of your guys that y'all running back. That he was on this players to watch list as well. I like Jarquez Hunter. I think he was a diamond in the rough out of Mississippi, and he's done some good things at Auburn. I would like to see him a little bit more consistent, and especially for lack of a better way of putting it, showing up in the big games. Right.
I need 120 yards against Georgia versus 51. Or, he's got to really show that knack for having some huge impact in those big games. And you have on your list also Travis Hunter, Matt. My goodness.
Travis Hunter,
he will be a top 5 pick in the draft. This guy's so versatile, talented in what he can do both offensively and defensively. Now, let me ask you this. I'm going to put you on the spot.
Oh, okay.
What side of the field do you think Travis Hunter should be on? Recruiting is good, you just stop all this. Shouldn't do two-way players in college football anyway. What side of the football field do you think Travis Hunter should be on? Exclusively.
Me personally, I think he should be exclusively playing cornerback. I just think that at the next level, I think his size and his technique, I just think that he will be able to play that cornerback position at the next level for years. I'm not saying he can't play wide receiver. I just think he at the next level, he just gonna be lost in the sauce at the wide receiver position. I just think as a cornerback, I just think he got it. I just think he got the size, again, the technique, and I just think he has the longevity to play that position better, in my opinion.
I think great minds think alike. I love the idea of him playing exclusively at cornerback, because there will be so many guys that will have played the wide receiver position exclusively in college football, not playing both ways. And I think Travis Hunter as a cornerback could possibly be elite in the NFL, and might be able to make just as much money as he's making in college with it, because these are making some bread.
Man, they making some bread, fam. I was like, because I said this on a segment I did. I was like, now when you talk about the NIL, especially these athletes, sometimes, heck, I can see why they go and stay 4 years and play for 5 years, because this NIL money they get is probably a lot more money they get in their rookie contract from you know what I'm saying, especially the women's side.
Yeah, especially if they get drafted anything below the second round.
Right. Yeah. So it just makes sense. But that was a good point. And you going somewhere, I want to get your thoughts on this, and then we're going to get out of here. I got to say hi. I got to say hi to Miss Toria. Thanks for popping in. Obviously, I got to thank my cousin's wife, Kennard's wife, Miss Candace, my cousin. Thank you for watching and hitting that love button. But I got to ask you, because we got to say this. Colorado, they moving to the Big 12. All eyes been on Coach Prime for the last year and a half. There's been reports that there could be some dissension in the ranks there. Blah, 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 blah. Your thoughts on Colorado and what this second season in the Big 12? What do you see happening?
Well, I think Deion Sanders, Coach Prime, Missed a lot of opportunities last year. I think he should have beat Stanford. I think he should have. There were a couple other teams that he should have beat. There were probably some, because I didn't follow Colorado football too tough. I'm pretty sure there were some injuries and some depth situations to where he wasn't able to be successful. I feel like Coach Prime, with some of the offseason hires, I think he brought on. I can't think of that defensive lineman. That
Warren Sapp. He brought Warren Sapp in.
I think he has some pieces in place to where, through the transfer portal, that he can have some say in the Big 12. I'm looking at probably a 7-5 season from him. That'll buy him a little more time. Mm-hmm. One thing I want Deion Sanders to be successful. Yeah, now, if it were my wish, I would have wished that Deion Sanders would have taken the more stoic approach and not been as talkative in year one, kind of similar to what Willie Taggart did at Florida State. And we all know when certain types of coaches, hint, get
I know what you mean.
Right. You need to produce more than you talk. Right. And I hope that that's the case for Deion Sanders this year, because I followed Deion Sanders ever since I was a kid. I remember playing in the football in the yard, doing the Deion Sanders dance when I scored a touchdown. I remember playing for Atlanta, and I remember that this is a guy that has been successful in pretty much everything he's done. Whether it was his, he had the music career that thing sold records. He did it with.
It sold records. It wasn't all that. I mean, it wasn't bad, but you're right. It sold records. Yeah.
And he played. He's a guy that successfully historically, played both baseball and football successfully. As a matter of fact, there was a situation where he played for the New York Yankees during the day or something like that. And then
he took a helicopter. He played
the Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah.
So he definitely has a story to where you can't make excuses because of what can and can't be done. Right. But I really want him to be successful in college football, because this is such a alternative culture dominated leadership. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get it. I know.
Yeah, it's such a field that is dominated by another culture, to where I really want Deion Sanders to find a ethical level of success doing this. And I think he can this year, especially with that transition. And there's some teams that are going to be dropping off. And I think he can do well with what he has. So I have big hopes for Deion Sanders this year.
I agree with you. And make sure you guys, you watch this later, make sure y'all like and subscribe to my good brother, my cousin, Vernon Speaks Sports-Auburn podcast on YouTube. Make sure you go check him out. He does all SEC, definitely Auburn. He going to keep you updated with the latest. So final thoughts, Kennard, before I let you get out of here. What's your final thoughts?
Well, one thing I'm definitely looking forward to this college football season. As a matter of fact, this has absolutely nothing to do with what we're talking about. But a lot of guys are celebrating the fact that EA Sports has brought back college football on the PS5. Yeah. I ain't got one. They complain so much about it on social media. I don't know if I want to buy one or not. But that's huge. That was a big thing culturally for men, And I look forward to a season where, because you have the expanded college football playoff, that there won't be a drop-off in competition mid-season. Because a lot of times what happened is when teams knew they weren't going to make it, you could kind of see the intensity level drop off. And another thing I want to see is all-out competitiveness, guys continuing to represent their brand of football no matter who it is, and represent their families. And I want the fans to understand that these are children playing football. You know what I'm saying? I want them to understand that while you're going online and you're talking bad about these kids, what if it was your child? What if it was your nephew? What if it was, I know we're going to have our opinions, but let's make sure that we keep them respectful. And like I said before, as I look at Auburn football coming into the season, I don't know what we're going to do, but I do know this. In the Deep South, college football is king. And on the plains of Auburn, the battle cry is War Damn Eagle.
And there you have it, my good brother, my cousin, Kennard Stewart with Vernon Speaks Sports. I want to thank you for joining me. I'm going to let you get out of here, bro, because you got family duties, and I appreciate you popping in with me. But stay close to your messenger, because I may be wanting to bring you back when we get a little bit more deeper into the college football season.
Okay,
All
hell,
right?
you can bring me back before. Just let me know.
All right, I got you, bro. Well, we're going to let you get out of here, fam. Appreciate you
All right.
popping in, and enjoy the rest of your evening.
I appreciate
All
you.
right, guys. Again, that was my good brother, Kennard Stewart, my cousin, Vernon Speaks Sports. If you haven't already, make sure you go like and subscribe to his YouTube channel, Vernon Speaks Sports-Auburn. And again, before I get out of here, I want to thank everybody for watching. Toria for popping in. Thank you, Toria, one of my biggest supporters. My cousin Candace. Thank you, the Candy Shop. Make sure she kind of been on hiatus. She has a YouTube channel too. But go check out the Candy Shop as well. You can subscribe to her channel. Make sure if you haven't already subscribed to TFG Sports Media as well as Kendrick Sports Hustle. That's SPORTZ HUSTLE right here on YouTube. Like and follow them both on Facebook. You can follow me on Instagram at Kendrick1969 as well as TikTok Kendrick Henderson 51. I want to thank those that popped in and watched me on TikTok as well. Tapping the screen and share the live. But before we do got college football kicking off actually this weekend, before I get out of here. We got some Saturday games. We got number 10 Florida State at Georgia Tech. We got Montana State at New Mexico, and we have SMU at Nevada and Delaware State at Hawaii. So there is college football. We'll be kicking off this upcoming Saturday. And you guys, make sure you check it out. You're welcome. You're welcome, cousin. So again, I am Kendrick, the sports guy with TFG Sports Media. Again, you can catch me here every Sunday. Most of the time I come live at 4. I went a little later to accommodate my cousin, but I might start doing it at 5. That might be a better way to do it. But I won't be live next Sunday. I'm taking next Sunday off because on this upcoming Saturday, my plan is to go check out Michael Irvin, Hall of Famer wide receiver, the Playmaker. He has a new sports bar called Playmakers 88 in the Colony in the DF Dub. My plan is to go check it out and do some pop-ins, do some live pop-ins on TFG Sports Media, on Kendrick Sports Hustle, as well as on my Facebook page and a little bit on TikTok. So y'all keep it tuned here. Y'all keep it locked. I'll probably do pop-ins on TikTok too. That's my plan. So I won't be live this next Sunday, but I will be trying to do some pop-ins on this upcoming Saturday from the Colony at the Playmakers 88, Hall of Famer wide receiver Michael Irvin's new sports bar where I can watch the Cowboys in their last preseason game versus the Chargers. It's at 3 p.m. So that is my plan. So again, I want to thank everybody that dropped in and watched this. And those that watch it later, make sure you leave a comment, talk to me, let me know. Make sure you like and subscribe and share this to all your social media platforms. Again, I am Kendrick, the sports guy with TFG Sports Media and Kendrick Sports Hustle. You guys enjoy the rest of your Sunday and have a great week. I am out. Peace.